Hour. The FBI and the White House says no malicious activity is linked to the New York Stock Exchange. Well, stand still. Our next guest suspects the trio of events is way too coincidental. Joining us now, retired Colonel Cedric Leighton. He is former NSA Deputy Training Director and Pentagon Joint Staff. Was the NYSE a little too quick to say there was no cybersecurity issue here?
David, I think so. And the problem with their statement is that they may have to change it in the future. We don't know enough to really say whether it was or wasn't a cyber attack. But there's so many suspicious coincidences when you have the New York Stock Exchange being, down for 3 hours and 38 minutes, I believe. And then you have United before that. And then, of course, the Wall Street Journal. So those would be three major icons of American industry that are basically being affected by some kind of computer glitch. And in most cases, when there are three things, it's more than just a coincidence.
You know, Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, who, of course, was here for 9/11, and he dealt with Dick Grasso, the head of the NYSE at the time, to sort of secure the markets and to reassure investors that everything was okay. He said, well, I think we can bring up a soundbite of him saying essentially some of the mistakes that were made by NYSE officials today in handling this. Let's play that soundbite.
If you say it is not cyber attack, and it turns out 2 days from now that it is, you're dead.
Do you think somebody could get fired as a result of coming out and saying that?
Oh, I think it's possible. I think that the mayor is absolutely right. The way that we're looking at this, has to be looked at a more or less holistic fashion, and you have to think about all the possibilities. And the one key thing that we really need to focus on here, David, is this. It's very hard to attribute cyber attacks, first of all, and it's also difficult to make a certain determination that there was, in fact, a cyber attack, unless the hackers are not very good at what they're doing.
Is it possible, Colonel, we will never know?
It is theoretically possible, but I will say this. Forensics have gotten a lot better when it comes to cyber attacks, to determining whether cyber attacks have actually happened or not. And I think we have a lot of tools out there, both in the private sector as well as in the governmental sector, that will allow us to find out eventually what happened here. But it may take some time. We may be looking at this weeks or months from now before we actually know.
Colonel, stay with us again. Charlie, you were here. You were around at 9/11. You know Dick Grasso very well. Would he have handled this differently? I would assume so, right?
I really think that Jeff Sprecher, the CEO of the Stock Exchange, was just horrendous today. And, listen, he's a very good guy, but, we call him as we see him around here. I think he needs to revamp his public relations department. His wife is the head of public relations. I'm not saying she's not qualified, but, I do have a little problem with that. You know what I'm saying? And I will say this. Here's the problem. They knew early on it wasn't a cyber attack. All right, so they knew there was something internally. And they knew for a fact, even though all these stations, ABC, and, Liz brings up Fox News. I mean, Fox Business kind of understands this, that, everybody was covering this like it was the end of the world. They knew it wasn't. They knew that the markets were running functionally well. They knew that trades were being completed. Yeah. They knew that more than half of their systems were up, yet you didn't hear one statement. Now, why didn't Sprecher do that? Now, the only thing I could think of is he didn't want to do that and get into like the nitty-gritty that the New York Stock Exchange just ain't what it once was, that it's a marginal player at best in terms of, executing the buys and the sells and, bringing as a market maker.
We have to bring back, I got to ask the Colonel one more question. They're giving me a wrap, Colonel, but we do know the technical glitch that was responsible for this. It began when NYSE was trying to fix some issues that affected a small number of stocks. They updated some of their software last night. Now, some people have suggested that if they had a glitch with their software that wasn't affecting the overall market, they should have waited until the weekend. You don't do it you don't change this thing the night before a midweek trading day. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. It's kind of the unwritten rule of IT professionals that you do things like that either at night or on the weekend, and you do it when least amount of people can be affected by it.
Yeah. Colonel Leighton, thank you very much for being with us.